Hey folks, David Stewart here. I don't usually like to talk about Brand X anymore, but this particular subject was just too interesting to pass up. Not really in terms of controversy, but just because there's a lot of interesting unknowns about what Disney is doing here. The gist of it is that Disney is saying that they can use your tweets for commercial purposes, saying in a tweet, essentially, if you reply to this tweet or use this hashtag May the 4th, then you agree to have your tweet and your account name be used by us for commercial purposes. That's what it shakes down to. But I'll go ahead and I'll read the text to you in case you're not watching the video or you're just listening to this somewhere. The tweet says, "Celebrate the saga. Reply with your favorite Star Wars memory, and you may see it somewhere special on hashtag May the 4th. That's tomorrow as I'm recording this. By sharing your message, this is a reply to that tweet. By sharing your message with us using hashtag May the 4th, you agree to our use of the message and your account name in all media and our terms of use here." And then there's a link to the terms of use. Then a reply to that. "The above legal language applies only to replies to this tweet using May the 4th and mentioning Disney Plus. These replies may appear in something special on May the 4th. Now, what is interesting to me about this is not just the slightly dystopian nature of a corporation declaring that they can simply use your tweets however they wish and that you grant them license merely by using the hashtag and by replying to their thread. They've made a very specific set here, I think, for interesting legal reasons. I think it's that we've never really tested the limits of what you can do with public posts on social media, to what extent you can use them, and in what contexts you can use them for them to be fair use. And I think Disney is looking at this as a kind of a legal optionality kind of thing. In most cases, you can use people's tweets for fair use. You can quote them in a newspaper or in an article online. I frequently do that with blog posts. I'll embed a tweet, somebody's tweet that I think sets up something interesting to discuss on my blog. I do that all the time. But under what circumstances can you legally use it, especially in a commercial sense? That is for advertising purposes rather than for, say, political commentary or something like that. That's where we don't really know the limits of what social media is and what you can use it for. So they are going ahead and saying, hey, we're going to just legally declare that if you do this, then we can use it. Is that enough to actually constitute consent from the people who are tweeting it? And I think there's a couple of interesting things here to look at. So again, it hasn't really been completely tested, but they have this extremely verbose terms of use, and the terms of use covers everything under the sun, things that don't apply to tweets, or it'd be really difficult for an average user to be able to look through these terms of use and figure out what the heck they're actually consenting to by replying to a tweet. And that's quite different from just figuring out legally whether replying to a tweet when you say something like that actually is consent at all. I think it's very interesting, and I would love to see if somebody would litigate it, but my guess is there's going to be no litigation on this, and Disney might know that. And the reason there's not really going to be any litigation on it is it's not really a high value thing. If somebody is using your tweet and your account name on something which is publicly posted, anyone can go look at that tweet, unless you're using protected tweets, in which case Disney probably wouldn't see that anyway. But you're posting it publicly. Can Disney use that for commercial purposes? What are you going to sue them for? What's the value of them using your tweet on whatever they're doing on May the 4th? How do you determine that value? Is it worth the expense of litigating? Are you going to find an attorney that's actually going to take up your case for prize money, essentially, for a cut of the damages? What are the damages? Are there any damages? What is the value of the copyright violation? Is there a copyright violation? There's so many unknowns. And it's just a really weird thing to see. It is slightly dystopian to see it, but I just think from a legal perspective, it would be super interesting to see how that actually pans out, because most of these little very specific things are determined through case law. And if there's no case law, you're just kind of operating blindly. And I think for Disney, there's not really a big downside to trying to do this because they have staff lawyers. it's marginally expensive to litigate against an individual, meaning their lawyers are already on staff, they're already getting paid. They're not having to pay a whole lot extra to go through the various legal processes that they need to. That's part of their entire product. And it could be that they have a legal team that isn't working, doesn't have 100% uptime, which means that you're really not losing much of any money by having to involve yourself with litigation. And for the little guy, it's probably not worth a lot of money to go to bat with Disney. And you're looking at a huge uphill battle, a multi-billion-dollar corporation that likely has very, very well-funded and talented lawyers at their disposal to argue any case. I wouldn't even know how the legal arguments for a case like this would actually go. Because, basically, I think Disney would argue, well, we made in very clear terms that we would use the tweet commercially if you replied to this tweet. They could have used May the 4th outside of this tweet. They could have mentioned us and May the 4th in a tweet, but if they didn't reply, they have to hit 3 different legal requirements. And it's like, so they clearly wanted us to use this commercially, and we're okay with that. And the other side would be like, maybe you didn't see the second 2 tweets because they're replies. So maybe you just saw the first tweet here in your feed because you follow Disney Plus. You didn't see the other legal language, and you for some reason got upset that they used your content on May the 4th, which is this kind of made up Brand X celebration there. So I don't know. I think it would be really interesting to see how this pans out. Of course, if you don't like them using your content, you simply can do anything that doesn't meet the criteria that they put there. So you just wouldn't reply to the thread, and you'd probably be okay. If somebody really wanted to test it, they're saying that they have the option to post stuff. So if you posted something really mean in response to it, they could just ignore it. So I think the only way that you would see somebody who wanted to test this legally is if they actually made a really good post that Disney wanted to use and then tried to argue that somehow they didn't consent to that, having already seen the legal language that said they did consent to it. I don't know. It would just be really, really interesting to me how it would shake out legally. So leave me your thoughts down below about this really kind of weird thing to say, hey, we can just use your stuff commercially, okay? Yeah, you submit to that. You submit to that by operating along these particular frameworks within this open thing called social media, called Twitter. I think it would be really interesting to test the limits of that and see how that works out. But you let me know, especially if you're an attorney that specializes in copyright. It's a very, very specific area of law that's very gray to most people who aren't in the business, aren't in the creative business, or who aren't doing that legally. So a lot of lawyers don't know copyright law, nor would they need to, because it just never really comes up in their practice at all. So if you have any kind of commentary or analysis to that direction, I would love to see it in the comments. And let me know what you think, of course, about this little thing. Newest fiction book is Eyes on the Walls, and you can check it out right now. The audiobook is going up on the channel, so you'll probably have chapter 10 maybe on May the 5th on Cinco de Mayo. Newest nonfiction book, Keys to Prolific Creativity. This is all about your creative process and making it better. Of course, I do need to plug the Corona Chan Spreading the Love special. This is a free, you can get the ebook for free, and it's got a bunch of stories in it, full books by a number of authors, including myself. And if you want to read Crown of Sight for free, I believe it's actually in the entire text is in this book for free. So check that out, and I will see you guys next time.